Hello and welcome to Gritty Reboot, the show where we discuss TV's dark side. I'm Sarah Dunaway, and with me are hosts Kevin James and Hunter Markham. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Sarah.
Yeah, Hunter here. I'm doing pretty excellent. We have embarked on a new show that is super not Riverdale, and I'm really glad.
Super not Riverdale is my only metric for success at this point.
We have a low bar after getting burned, and we're now on episode 2 of Wynonna Earp, which there's a lot to say about it, but I think the main thing is every time I go to watch it, I'm so glad that it's not Riverdale.
I think one thing that really stands out about Wynonna Earp is that it has humor that is purposeful and lands. It's very odd how that happens.
Yeah, apparently that's a possibility and something that people can do. But I know that there was one cultural reference in this episode that it was the second time on Gritty Reboot that we've had a Frida Kahlo reference.
I know, I thought about that too. But this show, I'm still not sure I need to put together a supercut for it, because they are very restrained with their references.
Yes. The fact that they didn't feel the need to make a pun out of Frida Kahlo's name it showed a much more restraint than Riverdale, because I believe the line that Cheryl said in Riverdale was she called Veronica Frida shallow.
Yes.
Which, as I said that out loud, I felt embarrassed for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This episode of Wynonna Earp kicks off in a nightclub that is populated by white blonde ladies who all look like they work as dental hygienists.
Which, yes, and that actually gave me Riverdale flashbacks, because what is with these small towns and TV shows having nightclubs? I thought Purgatory was like a slightly less than one-horse town.
Yeah, you know how every town has like a bar and a post office and then just like a wild nightclub. So, yeah.
I was really confused by that for the exact same reason, because there's a line outside of this nightclub, and we were told expressly in episode 1 that the Revenants, these dead outlaws that have come back to torment Wynonna Earp until she kills them all, they can't leave Purgatory, this little town in Alberta, Canada. But they're at a nightclub, and then there's some aside that Special Deputy Officer Dahl said of, like after our little trip to the big city, were they in the city? Were they in Purgatory? Where was this nightclub? How did the Revenants get there? I am still completely baffled.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Maybe this is just best left unanswered, because the nightclub itself was bizarre, between all the women looking like clones of each other, and then every man in the place was just standing up against the wall like it was a school dance.
None of this made any sense. I have no idea why this didn't just take place in the bar that we already know about. I don't know. It felt like a different show.
We needed a new set. There was really bad club music, and I thought Wynonna was going to say something about how she'd had enough bad house music from her time in Greece.
I could see that happening. I did like how she got everyone's attention once she was barging in to try and get that Revenant. She pulls out her gun, tries her best to be like, I'm an officer, and just does not figure out how it works, and just goes, crazy chick with a gun, everyone get down.
So, I guess she gets sent in to attack this Revenant, who's the one who has shark teeth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, all I could think was like, now here's a guy whose nickname should be Fangs. Yeah. That makes sense.
Oh, I was thinking baby teeth.
Either way, great nicknames for him. His nickname is Red, which is, what a waste.
Yeah, he's balding, so it's not like his red hair is his most prominent feature. His most prominent feature is the fact that he looks like his mouth is full of saw blades, is what it looks like.
But maybe he's a little self-conscious about that, and the Revenants, they understand that you don't mock your friend for something they're sensitive about.
He filed them down! That must have been a long and painful process to do that.
Hunter, it sounds like you've gotten to the root of the problem, but I'm not sure this is quite as incisive of a comment as you think it is.
Oh, God. But, okay, so what I was going to say is, Dahl sends Wynonna into this club without Peacemaker, the badass magic cowboy gun that can kill revenants. And I also like that he's like, you're doing this on your own, so I'm pretty sure he like is already sick of her and wants her dead.
I want to believe this is just how like real police train each other. Like, all right, you've got no training. I've given you a gun, and there's a crowd room in there. Go nuts, kid.
Well, and the job is to do it discreetly. I don't understand how he ever thought that a complete newbie agent would just like be able to discreetly shoot people in a nightclub. It doesn't make any sense.
It's been 3 days since he met her. She's done nothing discreetly, but he's still just like, she's ready. I've been holding her hand long enough.
She's a loose cannon, but she's the best we got. Sir, I'm right here. I'm not sure I'm anything yet. I haven't finished the onboarding process. Look, my paperwork is only half filled out.
And how is it discreet to send the one person, Wynonna, who all the revenants recognize on sight, directly into the nightclub with a gun?
And not with the Peacemaker. With another gun.
Yes! If it was discreet, maybe they could hang out outside the nightclub and wait for the revenants to leave and accost them in an alley or something like that, instead of... What did you think was gonna happen? I'm amazed that the guy with the shark teeth was, like, getting chicks, or at the very least seemed to be licking the forearm of a woman.
Classic pickup line. Works on everyone.
I don't know, what is he doing? And why is his response when he sees Wynonna is to then bite off this woman's finger?
This show wanted us to take a lot on faith for the opening scene.
It brings up a question I have for you both. What, at this point, do the Revenants want? Like, what do they run on? What is their purpose?
I don't know.
Destroying the heirs? I don't know.
Because, I mean, that's sort of what I thought. And then throughout this episode, we get stuff of, for 15 years, we've been working to get out of purgatory. And then the leader, who I was just calling Viking Halfbeard, he said something to one of these dudes, like, don't you want to get out of here and feast on things? So do they eat flesh?
I guess.
In this process of being revived, they've become, instead of outlaws who are robbing trains, like murder-hungry demons. So the show hasn't really told me yet.
No, and I mean, there are people they could eat locally, seems like.
Eat local.
That's right. Farm to table.
I'm so confused by this because sometimes it seems like they're carousing with chicks in their trailer park. Other times they're chewing their hands apart. And these revenants are just really loose cannons out here.
They really are. I did like, after the nightclub scene, we had a random scene where this random inspector in a warehouse just randomly gets his hand cut, and then an assassin demon arrives and eats him. It was a very confusing way to introduce the baddie of the week.
This was absolutely bizarre because it's a security guard walking around some abandoned Quonset huts. And what is he doing security on? Is he guarding the local tetanus population? I didn't get what his purpose was doing security on a dilapidated structure. And then he just seems to get killed by what looked like a very tall Jawa, if you're familiar with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. That isn't accurate. Like, we learn later, this assassin demon guy, you summon him by purposefully cutting a part of your body, offering blood to his hole in the ground, and then you tell him a target to go after. But, like, wow, that was so not clearly set up when he was introduced.
We later find out his name is Jim Killer Miller.
Oh my god.
I did my research, so...
You're a real Waverly over here.
You know.
This confused the absolute crap out of me. It wasn't until the second time I watched this episode, doing my due diligence, that I realized the security guard cuts his hand on some rusty piece of equipment, and when in 3 seconds he doesn't tell this spectral figure who else to kill, the demon is just like, oh, I'll murder you instead. You're here.
Yeah, I didn't put him together with the other guy until the second watch either. Just because it was like such a weird out of nowhere scene that my mind just skipped right over it.
Same.
This gets into some bigger things I have for the episode as we go forward. where I think they could have made this scene work and made this spectral shadow demon more impactful, but they decided to go in a whole other direction.
Well, I think the other problem is, like, the Shadow Assassin Demon is kind of a really cool idea in theory that feels like it should have been saved for, like, a mid-season episode or even closer to the finale. Not just blowing your load on special Revenant Sacrifice Demon in the second episode.
Hey, maybe this is tip of the iceberg, and they have some shit that's really gonna knock our socks off by mid-season.
That would be great.
They're setting the bar extremely high.
I did like that Dolls and Wynonna, they debate whether or not to reveal the existence of the Revenants, and Wynonna's like, well, obviously we should tell the people so they can protect themselves. And it's just nice to, like, compare it to every other show where this would happen, where, you know, it's just assumed from the beginning that don't tell anyone, we gotta maintain the illusion that people are safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which gets so old. Like, why does it need to be a secret that doesn't even, like, half the time it doesn't really even fit with the story. So it's nice to have it part with that. Even before that, Dolls and Wynonna have a brief conversation where she's won the bet about the gun that needs to kill Revenants being just the Peacemaker. You can't kill them with any gun. And she says, well, you owe me dinner now. I'll even settle for tacos. And I just have to say, tacos are never settling for Wynonna. That is the most Alberta, Canada thing I've ever heard in my life, and is unacceptable.
I mean, how good do you think the tacos are, like, at the taco shack at Sukhumi Beach in Alberta?
I mean, horrible, but, like, you know, have some respect.
I hear Alberta's really known for their ladyfingers, though.
Oh my god. The lengua tacos are on point.
So, I guess, yeah, to go back to your point about how they actually treat this as if it's not a given that you have to keep it secret that there's Revenant outlaws running around. Dolls talks about how the last place that found out there's a demon infestation, there was a huge panic, and so the government just straight up blew that place sky high, which I guess was probably not their best PR move.
I don't know though, I was just looking at that crater like, okay, so everyone that's a human leave town and then bomb it. I mean, that seems like not the worst idea I've ever heard.
But the only Peacemaker can kill a Revenant, so is there just then a bunch of weird Revenants chilling in a crater for eternity?
Well, I mean, you can clear the residents, and then, like, Wynonna can shoot anyone who's left.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like, why isn't everyone moving?
That would make so much more sense if the government could just say, hey, everyone's got to evacuate, but of course the Revenants can't because they can't leave town, so then you just go in there and just have a little murder spree.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like you'd find some big city that could accommodate everyone, goes to like Calgary or whatever, and then there you go.
See, all right, season 1, episode 3, they
Solved
do that. We wrap up the show. You're welcome.
We should really be showrunners.
We know how to stretch drama.
We just know how to milk it.
I think the point of all shows is that they should end as logically and quickly as possible. That way there is no drama or excitement.
Yeah, I mewe don't these people just act on their urges because instead of building sexual tension over episodes and sometimes even seasons? Oh, we were reminded that Champ exists in the one scene he gets in the episode, which I wish KJ Appa had been reduced to this screen time in Riverdale, where Champ is just shown in a drive-by where he stands up in the passenger seat of Waverly's Jeep and lets out a cowboy holler.
Yeah. It was a very moving woo!
That's all I wanted from him, all I needed from him, except for I wish the shot had kept going and Waverly had driven under some low-hanging trees and he had just gotten whipped in the face by several branches.
Yeah, he sucks, and I'm glad we're not even trying to give him screen time. Good for this show.
The show is just like, we're not going to try and redeem him or try and make him likable. We establish in episode 1 he's a complete douchebag, and we're not going to give him depth. He doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
I think the other development is Doc Holliday, who is sort of a Revenant and sort of not, but is hanging out with the bad guys. And I'm very confused by a lot of things in that.
Yes, I'm guessing they're leading into a reveal of some kind. Because he's clearly not a revenant. He can cross the city line, but he's still alive after 100 and some years, so clearly something has happened.
Right, and he sort of says some vague things like, no, well, I'm not this and I'm not that. So, you know.
He's not crazy. He's just a little unwell.
Exactly.
I know right now you guys can't tell.
Not the enemy, not quite a friend. Not a girl, not yet a woman, you know? It's just, what is he?
He's a bitch. He's a mother. He's a child. He's a lover.
Whatever that song is by not Sheryl Crow.
Yes. And so then that was during the scene where Wynonna was getting weapons practice with dolls, and it turns out she is a good shot with everything but the Peacemaker.
I appreciate her character because in the opening scene, before she goes into the nightclub, she makes a blowjob joke, and I'm like, this is just a kind of lady I could get along with. Because she has the same personality as me.
Yeah. I like the character a lot. I feel like the show hasn't quite dialed it in just yet. We'll get to that later, though.
There are some bad lines and some that I feel like there's one or two that she salvages or makes uncringe that could have been really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the cringe, I think, is reserved for this weird Viking revenant leader who has bleached patches in his beard, which is a strange costuming choice. But not to me as strange as the fact that he looks like he just walked off the set of that show Vikings, because he's dressed in furs and has a Viking haircut.
Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts about this because this was just like, how do we let people know that this is the scary big boss? Like, okay, mohawk, sure. Bushy beard, but the sideburns are white. Okay, I don't get it as much, but like, sure. He's wearing all furs. Okay. His name is Bobo.
That was an incredible reveal at the end of the episode.
I just don't quite get it. It doesn't really come together for me cohesively. He kind of looks like, for all of the many listeners out there who I'm sure have played Dragon Age, he looks like kind of like an Avar, who are these like basically Viking type people who wear furs and have bushy beards a lot of the time. And I don't get it.
I didn't get it at all. The casting seemed strange because he's supposed to be intimidating, but then in the very end of this episode, he is stripped down till he's bare-chested, and he just looks like a pretty normal dude. He's
no mad dog.
Yeah, he's
like pretty attractive. Like I was like, oh, are we gonna have like a love? Like who's gonna hook up with Bobo? Which is not a thought I should be having about the scary big boss. Like, don't make me write that fanfic, you guys. You could stop this.
If there's Bobo fanfic, I'm gonna fucking find it.
Oh, you know there is.
I don't! You remember I just dipped my toes into fanfic on one episode when we covered Riverdale, and it both intrigued and terrified me.
Hunter, there is fanfic for every couple or potential couple except for any character from the movie Avatar.
Wait, Avatar or Avatar?
Avatar, the James Cameron film.
Oh, okay, yes. Because
that movie is so devoid of chemistry, even fanfickers like, no, we can't salvage this.
Fair.
But I guess this dude, Bobo, who, God, like, couldn't they come up with a better name for the guy who's supposed to be the evil leader and all intimidating? But anyway, he's enlisting undead Doc Holliday's help in finding out what the Earps are, quote-unquote, up to, which I figured should be pretty obvious, killing revenants.
Yes. I like how this is a weird, like, spy mission when it seems like it's straightforward at this point what everyone is up to.
It could just be like, hey, Doc, kill her. And you're in.
Right,
which is what it becomes by the end of the episode.
Right, instead it's like, let's see if the Earps want to kill revenants. Let's find out. Let's do some discovery on this. Like, no, of course they do. You don't need to ask this question.
This is where my big issue with this episode lies. It's not in the actors' performance, any of that stuff. Or even the low budget, which shows itself pretty prevalently in certain scenes. It's really the fact that the first half of this episode is this whole spy mission, sleuthing around stuff, figuring out that Revenants can't pick up Peacemaker, which we'll get to in a second. And then all of a sudden, shadowy evil guy from the first scene is reintroduced as, oh, he's coming after Waverly and Wynonna. And it probably would, in my opinion, would have been a better episode if the first scene is them summoning him and sending him after Wynonna and Waverly. And then the entire episode is them trying to dodge him and trying to figure out how to make their homestead safe again, because that ends up being the crux of the episode, but not until like the last third.
Yeah, there's even a reveal that Shadow Man was one of the original 7 that came to their house to kill their dad and Willa. And it's like, if you moved that reveal to like vague remembrances at the beginning of the episode, then you've got a stronger emotional arc of like, I just keep having these nightmares about the Shadow Man, and then he gets summoned after them, and they've got to wrestle with their fear and guilt through the whole episode instead of just in the final quarter, I think.
Yes. I just think this episode failed from trying to do too much, where it could have been simpler, focused on fewer things, and we could have gotten to some of these other developments later, but instead we've got Red, aka guy with fucking shark teeth, showing up at the bar, and that becomes our first action scene since the nightclub, I guess.
Although I did like that he's just a boneheaded idiot who's like, well, I'm going to try and kill her in broad daylight in a bar, because that seems about on par with this character.
Was your favorite shot the same as mine, where they have this thing of the guns on the bar far away from Wynonna, and they like iris in on it, so it's down in the bottom left of the frame?
I did like that. And I also made a note that right before that, Waverly offers to make banana muffins for Wynonna to try and get into the Black Badge division. And I just want to say, I'm so sorry that Waverly is now dead to you, Sarah. She likes banana muffins.
What's wrong with banana muffins?
Oh, I really hate bananas, like in a way that is irrational.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like the one food that's just like absolutely never for me. Yeah. You know what? I know that there are some people who eat bananas, and I respect that, even though I don't understand it.
I go through like 5 to 7 bananas per week.
That's
Why
crazy.
would you do that to yourself?
They go in protein shakes and everything, and they're also delicious and perfect.
No.
I like them in baked goods, so I'm fine with Waverly's banana muffins. But Sarah, gotta cut ties with Waverly now.
Yep. It's over.
Okay, I know you guys like this episode, but when Sharktooth McClintock picks up the gun and starts freaking out and shaking like he just shook hands with Daffy Duck, who's using a joy buzzer, did you guys not laugh?
That was pretty funny.
That was good. I also really like the guy who's just constantly in the background of every shot looking terrified.
Dude!
Holding an axe.
That guy's my favorite, because at least
So good.
At least Sharktooth guy looks intimidating. I wouldn't want to get in a fight with him, but this other dude who's trailing him just looks like he'd be the dude at Home Depot who helps you find pruning shears.
Yeah, he looks completely out of place. He does not look scary in any way, and all he does is just carry a weapon and look scared the entire episode.
Yes, the Revenants veer from, okay, this guy is actually somewhat intimidating, all the way to that guy could teach biology at the high school. And it's a bizarre choice. I don't know, maybe casting options are limited up in Alberta. I mean,
Yes.
I've counted, and they found 3 black actors for this show so far, which I'm pretty sure exhausts the black acting pool in Alberta.
Probably. I did note that Gus shows surprising knowledge of the Revenants and what Wynonna's mission is, and neither Wynonna nor Waverly questions her on that, even though they, I believe last episode, were trying to keep that information from her.
Oh, yes. So this dude, Sharktooth boy, gets shot, gets sucked down to hell in the middle of the bar while Gus is standing there. Gus walks over and is just like, well, I'll get a cloth to clean up the blood. But this is the same woman who last episode was like, Wynonna, you're always talking about demons. There ain't no such thing as demons. And that's why I had you committed to a mental institution. So shouldn't her fucking world be rocked right now? And shouldn't she just be like, oh my gosh, Wynonna, I'm so sorry. I doubted you for your entire life.
Well, she is actually the one who says, Wynonna, get the gun. As soon as the Revenant shows up, she quite specifically tells her to get the one gun that works.
This is why this part about the Revenants and them when trying to steal the gun should have been a separate episode where then Gus has to come to terms with the fact that she's been wrong her whole life and apologizes to Wynonna, and we have a moving character arc rather than this getting tossed in out of nowhere.
I was assuming she was just pretending, or just, not wanting to acknowledge it, but really knew it all along. But even then, that's something that could have been touched on more.
Yes, my assumption is that this is building to some reveal about Gus, but they did a poor job foreshadowing that because neither Wynonna nor Waverly react to Gus suddenly knowing these things like, wait, you said you didn't know these things last time.
Yes, they could have had something where, I had you committed and said I didn't believe you just because I knew that would get you out of this town where you'd be safer. Mm-hmm. But right now she just looks like a grade A douche who knew about demons all along but still had her niece committed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really weird plot hole. We'll see if they can resolve this somehow. Because instead, Sci-Fi decided to really class it up with the following scene where we linger on Waverly's ass just before her shirt gets sprayed with beer. And I just want to take this opportunity to say, I've always liked Waverly. She's always been my favorite character. I think we all know that.
That scene really clarified Waverly's place in this show.
Really? That's how you handle this? It was a bit far.
It was okay, so there is a fanfic trope where you just make a series of really stupidly bad romance meet cute things just to basically just fuck with people. You do it as a joke where you have, every ridiculous trope in the book. This felt like that, like a joke thing. What if she sprays beer all over herself and then Officer Hottie comes in and is like, hey, looks like you need some help getting your shirt off. It was like that where it felt like this is preposterous even in the context of being purposeful bad writing.
Absolutely, because it's mere seconds after Waverly douses herself with beer before Officer Nicole Hott, it's her actual character name, walks in and it's like, when I see something I like, I don't want to wait. And Waverly's next line is, God, I'm sopping wet. And I didn't know that this was a porno, but I have to say the remaining 28 minutes of hardcore sex was tastefully done.
Well lit. Nice music. No, I mean, the thing is, though, everything about it was so contrived and ridiculous, and yet I also kind of loved it. Because
I think they are cute together.
They are
but
cute
yes,
together.
The setup was crazy. My favorite part was then Waverly turns around and tries to take off her shirt, and it gets stuck somehow because apparently Waverly is just that incompetent. Help, my delicate lady arms can't lift all 2 ounces of this wet fabric.
Oh, this blend? Yeah, it's 4% cotton, 96% flypaper Velcro blend. So yeah, this chick has to help her out of her shirt, asks her out for coffee. This is a definite step up from Champ.
It's so funny too because Sarah last episode said, all I know is there's a really cute love interest in this, and then afterwards when we were off the air you told me, yeah, I didn't tell Hunter, but I'm pretty sure it's a lesbian love interest. But there's not another woman, so we don't know what this love interest is yet. And the second Nicole walked in, we were like, that's her. We figured it out. Before she said anything, we just knew.
I wasn't pretty sure. I know for sure, but yeah.
I had no idea, but I appreciated Officer Nicole Hott just shooting her shot right out the gate and being like, your boyfriend already sounds like a douche. You should go out with me instead.
I used to date shitty men too.
I see you're sick of men. How would you like a Mountie?
Officer Nicole Hott, great character names all around, gives Waverly her business card, which has a personal fax line on it in case Waverly needs to send her documents the old-fashioned way. And when did this show come on? 2013?
Probably.
I think 2016.
Oh, geez.
I mean, anytime post 2000, there's little defense for this.
Yeah, no.
Like,
And isn't her title just police officer?
Yes.
Which is not what it would be.
I'm a cop.
So Hunter, I have to say, you were right. Waverly really is the sheriff of the show, and we jumped straight past the bad Archie plot line into her getting her own adorable lesbian love interest. So
Is this an unwritten rule of TV where if you just focus on the super hot chick character in order to be like, okay, we're not totally misogynist, we're gonna make her a strong lesbian female, but also still make sure she's scantily clad?
that just sounds like network TV trying to like have their cake and eat it too to me.
It's just hot in Alberta in the summer, Hunter.
Yeah.
She's just being practical, okay?
Alberta, known for her temperate climate.
Totally. That Canadian heat just waves over you. You know, what are you going to do? You have to wear almost nothing. It's part of the deal.
Everything north of the 49th parallel is scorching. Oh my gosh, it's great, but this is where we finally get back to the plot of them summoning the shadow guy, right? Or no?
First, I think we have Wynonna telling Dolls about revenants being unable to hold the Peacemaker, and this is the scene where like I realized I don't quite have Wynonna's character down yet. Because she says they can't hold it without vibrating faster than well, you have your toys, I have mine. And this character would not be ashamed of talking about vibrators.
No, she made a blowjob joke earlier. I don't know why she just wouldn't be like, you know, vibrate faster than my rabbit in my top drawer. Like, why isn't she just saying it?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the way this relationship works, she just said that and Dolls be like, whoa, over the line, just like, shut up.
Yeah, like, just have her be raunchy. It's fine. No one cares.
You're right. I didn't think about that, but as soon as you said it, that would be much more consistent characterization because this is a girl who's swigging whiskey, twirling guns, and talking about all the guys she's banged, so she doesn't have those same sort of limits and strictures that a more traditional female character would.
I feel like her character was already perfectly summed up in that whiskey in the teacup scene. Like, we get exactly who she is from that. Like, she is totally comfortable with who she is. Like, yeah, I may like teacups, but I want pure whiskey in this because that is the type of person I am.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I would have made the joke the normal way without circumventing, and I am way less of a badass than she is. So she needs to get it together.
You say as you prop your motorcycle boots up on the table during recording and spin a switchblade and menace Kevin with it.
Look, I drink my whiskey by the bottle just like anybody else.
I drink my whiskey one bottle at a time. I'm not a hero.
Oh, that reminds me. I think we forgot to cover it, but Officer Dolls says at one point, I don't do relationships.
So he's definitely going to get in a relationship with her. Can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my note here is when they gonna fuck.
Absolutely.
Yes. I have. That's, pretty obvious prediction, but yeah, on my predictions, one of them is Dolls and Wynonna gonna kiss.
For surezies. I also really like earlier in the episode where Wynonna asks him if he ever smiles, and his response is just to shoot his gun directly into a target. No, I don't smile. I shoot guns.
Okay, some men have problems processing emotions. This is actually, I think this is where we get the B&E scene, which we've been missing out on B&Es lately.
Oh, there's a prelude to it, too.
A B&E in Waverly's?
Well, first there's the scene where Doc Holliday comes into the bar, and Waverly is, of course, bartending. And this is another characterization issue for me because I just really look forward to the writers of this show figuring out that you could be a cute, kind of goofy girl, but also be consistently smart, and not just like hand someone the keys to the castle. because Waverly in this scene is just like, let me tell you everything, including how you could rob me and that I'm an Earp, even though I don't know who you are. And I just don't buy it. That doesn't seem at all consistent with the character who can recognize which revenant is which based on the research she's done. Like, get it together.
And as we learn at the end of the episode, this literally is Doc Holliday. Like, I wasn't totally convinced after last episode, but like Hunter, Sarah, you guys are totally right. It is the Doc Holliday. A much more famous companion of Wyatt Earp.
Yes, Waverly has done all this research. She can't recognize Doc Holliday when he's walked into her bar. I don't buy it at all. And I don't like that it feels like they have to keep dumbing her down periodically because they're afraid of making her smart, and I hate that.
Yes, they really hammer the Doc Holliday thing home whenever he breaks into her apartment and he looks at a picture of Doc Holliday, and it's just a picture of him. So it's something Waverly owns. She's not stupid.
She has literally seen him before. She has a picture of him in her apartment. Yeah, I hate it. I hate it so much.
The other thing is she's a bartender, and she tells a random patron that she lives upstairs. I just feel like bartender rule number 1, you don't know this creep. Keep that stuff secret.
Yeah, if I'm a 90-pound bartender, I'm not telling you where I live. Like, I think that's pretty clear.
Exactly.
Yeah, random factoid. I did get trained as a bartender, and the person who trained me did share a bunch of tips for, like, avoiding drunk randos hitting on you. Is like, this is going to happen to every bartender, especially the women, but, like, you'd be surprised how much it happens to men, too. Here are a lot of tricks to make sure you can, like, brush off the unwanted attention. So, like, yes, Waverly should know this stuff.
I've dated enough bartenders that I never even knew where they lived, and they didn't even know we were dating.
Look, we've all been there.
I didn't know where that joke was going when I started it.
It landed well, though. But yeah, Waverly's even like, look, I know what your deal is. You're dressed like you're old-timey. You talk like you're old-timey. Sure, there are revenants around doing the same thing, but I'm pretty sure you're a cosplayer.
Yes. Oh, by the way, since you're obsessed with Wyatt Earp, I have a bunch of Wyatt Earp stuff upstairs in my apartment right above us.
I'm usually out of the house between 4 and 5 because I like to take a little walk. So, whatever. I'm just going to leave my keys right here on the counter just in case anyone were to want to use them,
Yeah, my dog, don't worry about him. He's deaf and blind, really old, just sleeps all the time, so...
But on the off chance he even, like, starts to grumble at you, like, here are the treats he likes. In fact, could you go up and feed him, like, right now?
It's completely odd. So naturally, Doc Holliday goes and robs her and steals what I thought was an odd thing, which is a notebook where Waverly's written down the names of famous Western outlaws.
Yes.
Don't they know who the 77 Revenants are, and why would this be something Doc Holliday would be so interested in?
Right, like, is he just going to go back and be like, holy cow, these are all the people that are at the trailer park. Wild! Like,
Billy the Kid. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen him in ages.
And it's not like the notepad was, like, the only place the names were written down. She's clearly just writing down the names from the files.
It's odd. He breaks in, is in the middle of thieving things when Wynonna goes up to the apartment for God knows what reason, and tries to shoot him, and I guess misses. He shoots Peacemaker out of her hands and then scampers off.
Well, suddenly we learn that there are some serious drawbacks, and apparently it's impractical to have a 10-inch long gun that takes 2 minutes to unholster.
Maybe that's not so great. And does he steal Champ's pants in this scene? Because he's wearing them later.
I guess so. Oh yeah, I think he did. I think I remember him like holding him up and just like folding him under his arm before he went for the notebook.
Later, when they go and enlist the Shadow Guy's help, and I guess no one told Doc Holliday how this works, so they have him slice his hand, and he's being drawn into the darkness for the shadow to feast upon his soul, and they're like quickly explaining to him, oh yeah, you have to give him something that belongs to the person that you want to have killed, and he's like, maybe you guys could have told me this. I just wish instead of throwing in Waverly's notebook, he had tossed in Champ's jeans. Then the Shadow would throw them out and say, rhinestones, what is this, 2003?
My note here is that the Revenant is like, wow, you must really hate the Earps to send the shadow after Waverly. And it was like, yeah, that's pretty heartless. Even the other Revenants wouldn't harm Waverly, Doc Holliday. Come on, they've got standards.
There's the same Revenant, the little Home Depot nice-looking guy who's there. I don't know, I just can't stop thinking of him that way. Who, as Doc Holliday's being sucked into the darkness, he's like, oh, I declare, I don't have anything of Wynonna's on me. I'll throw this book. And then 2 seconds later, the Home Depot dude is just like, oh, yeah, I sent him after Wynonna, didn't you? No, didn't you just hear me? I just had to scramble to come up with something else because you didn't explain to me how this worked.
Yeah, the Revenants don't seem very organized. For having planned this for like 100 years of revenge, just like, we'll wing it. Like, he doesn't need to know until he gets there.
Yeah, Bobo later is just like, stick to the plan we've had for 15 years. We've thought this out to the nth degree. Jesus. So yeah, I mean, everyone's pretty upset that now this murderous shadow is going after Waverly. And this is where they throw in the plot about how the homestead used to be safe until the night that somehow the Revenants came and killed Wynonna's dad.
Yeah, apparently it's built on a bed of ammonite.
One of those.
Yeah. And
they used both words, and I can't remember which was the correct one, which was the wrong one.
Yeah, they think it's one mineral, but it's another, but they're very similar. And apparently at some point everything dramatically shifted, and suddenly Revenants were on the property.
So this brings up this weird moment where Dolls is like, this place should be safe, but it's not. Waverly and Wynonna look around for anything occult. I'm gonna go, I guess, drink coffee. And they're going through the Earp place, and although there's a height chart thing where that shows Willa and the dead older daughter and Wynonna's height, there's none for Waverly, and she makes some sort of sad comment about it. What do you guys make of that? Because I had a few competing thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, one thought I had was that, like, she might not really be an Earp. Another thought I had was that she was just too young, and it's like that she was neglected because she was the youngest, and by the time she was growing up, I don't know, the mom was gone, maybe? I don't really know what to make of it.
I cannot theorize because while looking up the actress's name, I accidentally got a spoiler that revealed what the answer is to me.
God damn. My prediction is that she's hella adopted, according to my notes.
Yeah, I mean, not an Earp seems like the most likely explanation, but I don't know.
This is where night falls suddenly, or rather, the scene changes from daytime to really poorly shot day for night.
Yes, this series is very fond of day for night.
The worst day for night I've ever seen is in Point Break. Excellent movie, but they tried to do that night surfing scene, and they just shot it day for night, and there's clearly the sun in the sky. And I would say this part of Wynonna Earp is a close second for worst. The day for night scene. Wynonna is on the phone with Dolls, and is like, wow, things just got dark here in 3 seconds. And he delivers some dialogue while just like 1,000 yards staring off into nowhere. Where he's like, I'll be there in 30 minutes. As he doesn't blink and just looks at a wall. Which is great acting.
Yeah, I don't know why he left in the first place. Didn't make any sense.
This is where the episode really jumped the rails, and I got a very discombobulated sensation the first time I watched it. Because it goes from night fell in 3 seconds, Doll says, I'll be over in half an hour. Cut to Waverly and Wynonna have done a wardrobe change into pajamas and started a nice little campfire outside. So that took some time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 15 to 30 minutes because they have a fairly sizable fire going. So I don't know what's Doll's doing. Is he hourly? Did he
Yeah,
choose
I
to
had
walk?
the same. I was like, that's a really good fire to have gotten started. They got out blankets.
He
Like,
hadn't won his staring contest with the wall yet.
yeah.
It was weird. It just seemed like a very odd and unnecessary time jump and wardrobe change. I got confused, and then this is where the shadow demon starts showing up and apparently has powers to just like suck the light out of everything. And when Wynonna's going to check on a generator, the demon just telepathically tears her gun from her hand and tosses it.
Yeah, they haven't explained enough about Revenants for me to understand what's going on here, because I get, okay, like, he's Jim Killer Miller, he wore a bulletproof vest, so when they try to shoot him, it bounces off. Okay, sure. Why in life did he suck the light out of things? Like, I don't understand why this is part of the character.
This is what I mean when it's like, this seems like such like a specific and overpowered version of a Revenant. It's weird it's being introduced and done away with so early. It feels like there should have been a few more episodes just like dealing with regular Revenants as Wynonna gets her footing, not just suddenly dealing with Mega Revenant.
Yes. And cramming all of this exposition and showcasing of his powers into 15 to 20 minutes on screen was really rushed. So it could have been a thing where they introduce him and then over the course of a couple episodes they have to deal with him. And that would have made it seem more climactic. But right now, he just seems like, oh, he can just do magic stuff and just telepathically throw guns and snuff out fires. And I guess he was whispering things about how Wynonna smells like funeral flowers, but then just trots away to stand spectrally behind Waverly.
That was confusing. Like, he's this murder-hungry demon man who, like, the second anyone cuts their hand, he's gonna devour them instantly. Then when he has an actual target, he just, like, stands politely behind Waverly and waits for her to turn around.
Wynonna's there. I know she's not the target, but does he have some sort of rule against collateral damage where he can't kill her? Because it seems like she was disarmed and alone. He could have just, been like, hey, things got a bit messy, but I got rid of the target. You don't have to know about the rest of it.
No idea. It was really hard to follow. Yeah. Is this where we learn about Waverly having buried the thing?
Yeah, we learn about Waverly's imaginary friend Bobo, who turns out to have been real, which I just have to ask, like, 5-year-olds know what the difference between a person and an imaginary friend is. I don't know how she sees, like, a man like Bobo who's like, wow, you're clearly my imaginary friend and not just a stranger.
Yeah, see, I was wondering if he was some kind of, if Revenants go through a phase where they're kind of, like, in between. I mean, because he's not a human.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know. It is confusing.
Yeah, because her pictures, they unearthed some childhood drawings that Waverly had of her imaginary friend. And she drew some potato-headed freak. And it doesn't look at all like the svelte Viking gang leader. I don't know if he has some sort of shape-shifting powers or what, but...
Yeah, Revenants, I think, first appear in potato form. He goes from spud to stud,
He had to germinate first. He had, way more eyes before.
Totally.
Yeah, that was odd to me, but the fact that they're kind of leisurely jogging away from this sinister shadow demon and expositioning, where Waverly's like, oh, as we're running, Bobo told me this, and the so-and-so and that, and this is where I buried this charm that counteracts our magic bedrock where our house is built on, right next to where we buried our pet hamster. And I was just like, time and a place. If this had been done over the course of an episode, they could have covered this exposition, but not in the middle of a chase scene.
One thing that makes every chase scene better is exposition.
Yeah, she also took the time to do the Stations of the Cross on herself after mentioning her dead hamster Pikachu. Not the time, Waverly.
Do you guys remember the scene in Star Wars where, like, Han Solo and Chewbacca are running from the stormtroopers that are shooting them, and Han is like, so really the conflict dates back to 320 when
Then Senator Palpatine, or whatever he was, don't at me, Star Wars fans.
City Councilman Palpatine.
He was really just volunteering for the school board at that time. But whatever his fucking name was. And
the transition from Republic to Empire was marked by tons of tension, with the central core planets exerting a lot more influence over the outer worlds, which wanted to assert their authority, but were sadly outvoted. Oh my god. I'm just writing Star Wars fan fiction now.
I was just like, is that real Star Wars fiction stuff?
I'm sure I'm close, but it's not real as far as I know.
Oh, okay. Back to this. I wanted to establish that Shadow Demon also has in his repertoire the ability to drain the power from car batteries because they try and flee and start the Jeep. But it's just weird to me, like, this guy, I guess, somehow knows what electricity is and also just has magic abilities to drain batteries. They really just travel on the powers out of nowhere.
Yeah, I would like an explanation. I feel like this might not be explained, though. I'm kind of okay with just Revenants sometimes having really weird powers. But I want them to at least mention that some of them have crazy powers that are way bigger than others.
Guys, I think this show needs to be like Lilo and Stitch the animated series, where the beginning of each episode was dedicated to explaining the weird powers of the new experiment that Lilo and Stitch were going to try and catch this week.
Wow. I mean, I've watched some bullshit, but I have never seen Lilo and Stitch the animated series.
I did not know there was an animated series.
I vaguely remember commercials, but you reached deep into your bag of tricks for that.
I am here to give the craziest explanations I can and just cite really unusual shows to make our audience like us.
You couldn't have gone with The Emperor's New School, the animated series?
Sadly, I was never into that.
Back to the
You just can't do Kronk dirty like that. Come on, guys.
Back to our show that we're watching, which is not Lilo and Stitch the animated series yet.
But
Not
why
yet.
not?
Dolls shows up, finally, and while the shadow is stalking them, Waverly's like, oh, when you just tried to shoot him, Wynonna, the bullet bounced off with a metallic sound. That must mean it's Jim Killer Miller. And Dolls is super impressed with her know-how.
Yeah.
Again, a little exposition-y for an action scene.
That was a little exposition now that you pointed out.
It was actually worse in the original script, is the thing. They really dialed it back. They tried to make it more action-oriented because I was able to get my hands on the first copy of the script before the writer's room had a chance to do a rewrite. And wow, they really went off on a tangent there.
Yes, I see you have sent us the script. Do you want us to cold read this?
Yes, I really think that'd be good to see that although there were some flaws in this episode, it could have been a lot worse. I know that Waverly's been on your nerves, Sarah, but you did align yourself with her before, so I think you'd be perfect to play the part of Waverly.
Can't believe I always get typecast as the woman in these.
I mean, I was going to cast Kevin as Special Officer Dolls.
I can try. I just let me find the right wall to stare penetrating at.
And I will play the part of the demon.
All right. Oh no! There's a demon lurching through time and space to twine his fingers around Wynonna's throat. From the looks of it, I'd say he's moving at about 15.4 miles per hour.
Impressive. How do you know that?
I worked the radar gun for the minor league team Champ played for. Look! Now the demon is draining the car battery, which means he's somehow depleting the electrolyte from the sulfuric acid.
And you're knowledgeable about automotive mechanics. Waverly, you are incredible.
Thanks, I guess. Should we help Wynonna?
Sure, but first, I just want to let you know that you made a bold choice by blending summer colors with autumn tones. Against all odds, your ensemble works.
Oh my gosh, thanks! No one else appreciates the work that I put into these choices.
Now I have you, Wynonna. I will crush the life from you. Ah.
Oh, that last growl he did was in B flat. I also have perfect pitch.
Is there anything you can't do? I could stand immobile for hours in high-stress situations stroking your ego. But I guess we should go help your sister.
Yeah, he's got her by the neck. That means he's either crushing her esophagus, which will kill her, or he's merely cutting off blood flow through the carotid artery, which should simply render her unconscious.
You know, honestly, at this point, maybe we should just wait it out. You'd make a vastly superior heir anyway.
Okay, it would be the trachea, not the esophagus.
Wow, Waverly's correcting her own line.
He might also snap the hyoid bone.
I think the writers just weren't as knowledgeable as you, Sarah. I think when it comes to crime and murder, you should probably consult on most TV shows.
I probably should. Well, I'm a speech pathologist, so the structures of the neck are like my forte.
Oh, yeah. Dolls standing around to compliment Waverly in the midst of having a demon assault them was really strange. And
yes, see, the way that you continually show me that Waverly is smart is not by telling me, by having people compliment her. It's by having her consistently be smart. And I would really like the show to pick up on that.
yes,
Yeah.
and have her take actions that save Wynonna and or Dolls' butt would be something that would show how smart and capable she is, and then warrant the fact that by the end of this episode, she's a black badge consultant. And we don't need other characters praising her when it's obvious from the actions she takes that she's a competent person.
I do like her very obvious glee when she finally gets what she wants and becomes a researcher slash consultant.
Yes, I like that she's goofy. I like that she's silly. Like, I think that's all great. Like, I think you absolutely can be really smart and be goofy.
Most smart people I know are really goofy.
Yes. Like,
I'm the exception to that. I'm just
That's
super
true.
smart.
You're not smart.
God, I love that we went with the opposite joke at the exact same time.
Same wavelength.
Oh, one thing I did appreciate was, so Wynonna ends up shooting Demon Good Dude in the back a few times before she blows his brains out and he's dead. But I appreciate that they have her Colt Peacemaker as a single action revolver, so it's historically accurate. And, you know, for all the shit I talked on the show, I had to find something they did right.
Mm-hmm.
And Dolls was totally useless and all that. He just showed up to praise Waverly and didn't fire a shot.
Yeah.
yep. He was just also there.
Then Home Depot man charges in with his axe, and Dolls just like lightly pushes him to the floor.
And he's like, no, I really think this is the right axe for that construction job you were telling me about earlier.
See, I know the app said that it was in aisle 34, bin 8, but it was actually over on aisle 36.
So I'm super glad I helped you out because you never would have found it.
That's crazy. 36 is normally like plumbing, so I'm glad we got this straightened out.
But yeah, because they have in the middle of this scene after they kill the shadow guy, it shifts from night back to day. But then the fight scene, I hesitate to call it a fight scene, the brief scuffle between Dolls and this unimpressive specimen is shot in a kind of a disoriented way and edited as such. So I had some quibbles with how they pulled off this scene in general.
Yeah, it wasn't the best.
And then Waverly's over there digging. She digs up the talisman, throws it off the property, and that magically also throws Home Depot man off the Earp property.
Apparently.
Odd, but then I guess the homestead's a safe place where they don't have to worry about getting attacked by revenants, so they can chill there. I just want the next episode to be an Extreme Makeover Home Edition where their little cabin gets fixed up.
Yeah, we hear it doesn't have running water and that it smells terrible, so needs a lot of work apparently.
There was a moment where the random Home Depot guy, Wynonna decides not to shoot and kill him just because she's like, I know this guy's pathetic. And he decides to deliver some exposition then, like, you want to know about the 7? The hunting party that has 3 dead heirs under their belts? And I just wanted to say, are they including Willa as one of those dead heirs? Because it's not particularly menacing to brag about killing a 7-year-old.
Yeah. If anything, yeah, just maybe kind of leave that one off the list. The next scene was the most confusing thing for me in the entire episode because Doc Holliday, who's going by Henry or Hank or something, is at the homestead with the Earps, putting a new mailbox like up for them. And they know he's the guy who did the B&E because he's wearing Champ's jeans. So they know he's a criminal, but they're kind of like, oh, but he's nice. I like him.
Well, Hunter, he was putting up the traditional Canadian apology mailbox, so they had to forgive him.
Yeah.
If someone broke into my sister's apartment, I wouldn't in the next scene be like, oh, I really want to bang him like Wynonna is. Probably.
We know Wynonna has really bad taste in men.
Yes.
From her own mouth.
True.
I believe the line earlier in the episode was ugly and dumb. Are you sure we haven't dated?
Mm-hmm. At least she didn't hit on Fangs.
Though she did hit him. I'm sorry.
Okay, so then we go to the Revenant camp, the trailer park of the damned, and this was really confusing to me. So the Bobo says, okay, you want to prove you're really with us, Doc Holliday. Kill this Revenant. And I'm like, how does that prove anything? That's in his best interest to do that either way. If he is 100% anti-Revenant, he would still want to kill a Revenant. What does that prove?
That's a very good point. Yeah. Because Bobo's displeased with Mr. Home Depot and says, you shouldn't have gone off book and tried to steal the gun. Doc Holliday, kill this guy, or else we'll kill you. So, yeah, it's an easy choice for him either way. You got nothing to lose. And then they're like, we accept you.
Right, but why? Yeah. Whether he's pro or anti-Revenant, it still makes sense for him to kill that Revenant. I don't get it.
You should have seen the other harrowing choice that the Bobo had laid out for Doc Holliday. Doc Holliday, if you're really with us, you'll eat all of this scoop of chocolate ice cream.
You don't have to kill Wynonna, but if you sleep with her, that'll really prove that you're with us. It's not the best run gang, but they apparently have some scheme where they're less they say, let the 7, this mythical hunting party, deal with Wynonna. The rest of us, let's work on breaking out, getting out of purgatory so we can wreak havoc all the way from Vancouver to Quebec City.
I'm not sure why they don't just all go over and kill her right now and then get back to work. Like, there's 73 of them left at this point.
They can probably take her.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think. But that's not how things work over here in Purgatory.
And the hunting party of the 7 is now down to the 6. And I thought the importance of the 7 is that it's one more than the number of rounds you can chamber in this 6-shooter, the Peacemaker. So, like, the advantage has been lost.
True. I also have a question about Peacemaker. Does it need bullets? We never see her load it. She never seems to run out. And I was kind of like, oh, it's a magic gun and it just always is loaded and never runs out of ammo?
Didn't she run out last episode?
Did she? Maybe.
I thought she shot at, like, that third Revenant and it clicked instead of firing.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, and then Dolls shot him, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe. I don't really know.
I didn't know. I haven't seen any scenes of her like ejecting spent cases and loading new ones, which admittedly would not be that exciting to watch. So maybe that explains it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we also get, once the Revenants agree to help Doc Holliday because he's proved their loyalty, there's a kind of foreshadowing or kind of tease we get about they will now help Doc Holliday destroy the woman who did this to him. Don't know what woman they're referring to.
My money's on Gus.
Yeah. I think it's the mom who we have not heard a lot about and seems to be out of the picture. I want to know more about Wynonna's mom.
Doc Holliday's bitch ex-wife who claimed to be an actress.
Right.
But, yeah, okay, so they mentioned something in the episode about how Wynonna's mom left when Wynonna was 4? Mm-hmm. So this lady's been out of the picture, and yeah, I think it's Chekhov's missing mom, where she has to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I assume she will come back. I don't know for sure, but that would make sense to me.
You know, my favorite thing was when Doc Holliday drags the Revenant across the line, and the final shot of the episode, they didn't even do any makeup that shows this guy's flesh falling off or anything. They just CGI'd in steam effects. Like he's...
Green steam.
It was the cheapest thing that you could possibly do, and it wasn't a shocking visual. It just seemed kind of lazy.
I also really loved the earlier when they had, I forget which guy, I think it was the Killer Miller guy, shot through several times in the torso, and they just have these blades of like laser lights coming out of him, and it looked so goofy.
Oh, it's laser lights and the feeling's right. Oh, yes, it's laser lights. Oh, what a sight.
It was really goofy. It looked like something out of an anime, but I was just happy that in this episode, Wynonna didn't get superpowers and turn a bunch of backflips before kicking someone in the face or something like that. I like it better when she's just doing gunfighting stuff.
It's definitely more tense when it's just like, I'm just a normal person who has to use this one super object to defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I kind of hope that they don't bring back the superpower spin kicks.
Or if they bring them back, it is the result of training that we watch happening.
Yes. Oh, if we have
I'd be okay with that also.
If we have a training montage, I'm so in.
Oh yeah, I love a good training montage.
Yeah, I think that's it. So, what would you guys rate this episode?
I'm gonna give it 2.5 out of 5 bucktooth revenants.
I'm gonna say 3 out of 5 beer-soaked tank tops.
I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 inexplicable fax machines on a business card.
Did you guys have cringe lines from this episode?
Not really. I know there were some bad lines, but like, I'm still so used to Riverdale where like it causes actual physical cringing that like none of the bad lines here hit the same level for me, so I can't respond to them yet.
And the one where I initially went, oof, what? Then Wynonna immediately mocked it. So I was like, okay. The one where Killer Miller's like, your hair smells like lilies, the flower of funerals. And I was like, what? And then she says, worst pickup line ever. So she saved that one for me.
And there was another one that on Riverdale would have been so bad that I would have felt physical pain, where after she kills the sawtooth dude and he gets sucked down to hell, there's a little blood stain. And the line in the script was clean up aisle 3, which is a fucking awful line, whoever wrote that.
Yes.
But
terrible.
the fact that Melanie Scrofano delivered it in this like undertone, like really blasé, and kind of like she was embarrassed about it, salvaged a line that could have been worse.
She probably was embarrassed by it.
Yeah, but it worked because it sounded like she was just shaken up and didn't know what to say, which made it work. Then it becomes plausible.
Yes, there were a couple that got to me. One was whenever they're trying to defend themselves from the Shadow, and Waverly calls the Shadow a shit ticket, and Wynonna's response is, "Ooh, I love when you say shit ticket." Why don't... That was odd, but not as odd as right after she kills him and the light comes back and everything's good. That's when Wynonna decides to go, ooh, this just got crazy. Like, it's decidedly less crazy now.
The danger has passed and things are back to normal. What a crazy time we live in.
So, I mean, they're not all gems on this show, but they're not...
No, there are plenty of bad lines, but the actors are all of a better caliber that we've seen so far, which helps.
I think it helps that these actors are adults and have prior acting experience, whereas Riverdale... correct me if I'm wrong, but KJ Apple was a relative unknown when Riverdale started, right?
Correct. He was like 19, and the main reason he got the acting job was his guitar skills.
Okay, odd choice, but the only other thing that made me cringe was when Bobo was delivering lines and just like stroking his beard, but with very spidery fingers, super over the top. They could have toned that down a little bit.
It almost reminded me. Have you either of you seen Face Off?
Yes.
No.
You know, like the finger waterfalls.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Face Off? I mean, who the fuck signed off on a movie that's all about John Travolta and Nicolas Cage having surgery to trade faces?
I would sign off on that because it's amazing.
Face transplant surgery was a thing that they invented for a film.
Yeah. I have not seen that film because I heard what the premise was. It was like, no. Pass.
I'm giving you face waterfalls so you understand.
I saw it as a kid and thought it was stupid.
So let me try to explain to listeners. Face waterfalls are when you take your hand, place it over someone's face, and run your fingers down the length of their face slowly.
Yeah, Bobo just doesn't work for me. He's not menacing enough. He doesn't have enough, I don't know, chutzpah.
He doesn't have the charisma you want of a central villain. He doesn't have the physique to be properly intimidating, and they give so many questionable attributes to him that can't help but undermine him. Like Bobo as a name.
Yeah, I mean, Doc Holliday also doesn't work for me as a villain. Or I just don't think he hasn't. So far, they haven't given him enough presence for me to be really compelled.
Mm-hmm. I agree on both counts. With Bobo, I think it's partially like when he strips down to his no shirt, and I was just like, I'm in better shape than that guy. I could take him in a fight. Didn't really bring the intimidation factor that you need with someone named Bobo. You need a hulking beast for that to come off.
Or you need someone who can just radiate a kind of presence. Like the first villain of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the Master, he was not physically intimidating either, but they put some monstrous makeup on and they got an actor who could really sell the level of like calculating depravity that the role required. And so he's a pretty effective villain, even though he's literally just walking around an empty cave for 10 episodes saying, gotta find some way of killing a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, totally. Or like Ralph Fiennes is another example. Mm-hmm. Voldemort, like not he's not super huge dude, but the presence pulls it off.
Yeah, that Voldemort could have been such a weak villain, especially when he's just like a little too pale and has a slit nose. That makes a villain, right?
He's terrifying,
It's just poor casting. They needed someone who has more charisma and intensity. And with Doc Holliday, the actor's a good-looking dude. He seems competent in physical action scenes, but I think it just still feels like a put-on when he's kind of doing this foghorn leghorn southern accent the whole time. Mm-hmm. And it's just painfully clear that he's doing an accent.
Yes.
That's what really fucks it up for me.
It comes across almost mumbly because you can tell it's not his real voice. So it just seems put on, and it seems like he's doing a bit and not very well. And so it's hard to even really listen to him.
Yes. He was one where I had to put on subtitles at times because he gets so mumbly, because I think he's kind of embarrassed of his southern accent.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work. Like, if you're a villain, you need to be really, like, you're confident, you're clear. These are the things I expect from a psychopath,
Yes. I know we talked about Waverly possibly being adopted, and that Dolls and Wynonna are gonna kiss. Are there any other predictions that we have?
Yeah, Waverly and the hottie are gonna get naughty.
For sure.
Okay, those are most of my predictions.
Over some biscotti.
Oh my God. That's just, now we have to do a full Wynonna Earp rap.
For all of our viewers
West
at
Purgatoria,
home.
born and raised.
Nicole Hott asked for a cappuccino when she came by and then invited Waverly to coffee. Just to explain my own joke there for the crowds.
Yeah.
See, jokes get funnier when you have to explain them.
The more you explain the joke, the better it is.
A joke explained is a joke enjoyed.
Absolutely.
My big complaint on this episode, though, of course, is Waverly gives instructions about where she lives and how to break in to a random cosplayer from her point of view, but not to the hot woman hitting on her. Come on, Waverly. Come on.
You could have at least hinted at that. Like, oh, I'm usually around here. If you need to talk to me for any police stuff, I live right upstairs. I shower with the curtains up in case you just want to check on me.
But I feel like they're going to have an adorable relationship. You can already tell that the chemistry is there, and they only shared like a minute of screen time together.
Yes. And okay, we keep talking about dolls and Wynonna, but at the end of this episode, Wynonna is acting like she's all hot and bothered over Doc Holliday. I kind of don't want that to go anywhere. So my hopeful prediction is that they don't hook up.
I think they probably will, but I don't like it either.
I get where both of you are coming from, and like I agree I won't like it, but I think it would make sense for her character, if that makes sense. Like I get, like, we've got to see her make these bad decisions at some point. She can't just keep referencing them.
That's kind of where I land on it.
It's not like Dolls is a good decision. He's an emotionally constipated, borderline psychopath with a gun who says he doesn't do relationships, and whenever the officer Nicole came into their office, he threatened to have her tried for treason and executed. So
yeah, but it still sounds like he's a step up from Wynonna's previous beaux, because she says something like she implies that she spent time with the Hells Angels or whatnot.
And then there's some dude with a face tattoo that was her ex-boyfriend that Waverly mentions.
Yeah.
So I don't know why she let him slip through her fingers. I think he was a winner.
Yeah, she's kind of stepping up from like complete trash to just emotionally unavailable and hostile, which, yeah, I guess that's an upward trajectory.
She's growing.
I mean, she's had beaux, but has she has Bobos?
Ooh, I want Bobo and Doc Holliday to consummate their smoldering tension.
I'd be into that, yeah.
If we're going to have a lesbian relationship, we got to have the other side of the coin there.
All right, well, I think that's it. So join us next week when we discuss Season 1, Episode 3 of Wynonna Earp, Leavin' on Your Mind. Until then, feel free to subscribe to us anywhere you listen to podcasts, and please leave us a review because it really helps us grow.
In the meantime, you can reach us on Twitter at GrittyRebootPod or by email at grittyrebootpodcast@gmail.com. And you can check out our website, grittyrebootpodcast.com, for info about the show, past episodes, and upcoming news. We look forward to seeing you next time.
We are the rebel.